Virtual reality will revolutionize driver training and simulation in the transportation industry.
But
Emerging technologies pose a threat to traditional shipping methods.
I don't think a threat, an opportunity.
Who is winning a race across London? Usain Bolt, an autonomous, an electric truck, or a drone?
Depending on the time of the day, it could be the drone. If it's no in London traffic, it could easily not get very far on an electric truck.
Welcome to the Supply Chain Tech Podcast with Roambee. Scott Mears here, Marketing Manager at Roambee and host. We thank you for joining us today. In this episode, we speak with Ian Barber. Ian is the European Transport Manager at British American Tobacco. We delve into BAT's journey through emerging technology. First, we learn why BAT is focused on electrified vehicles, not autonomous vehicles or drones, and how tech is helping them overcome regulatory compliance and trade challenges globally. Finally, we discuss the role Roambee is playing in BAT's strategy and how they stay competitive in an innovation-driven market.
Welcome, Ian. How are you doing today? It's great to have you on board, and it's really exciting to have you on this episode today. And we're going to be diving into BAT's journey through the emerging transport technology, which is one we've not actually covered as much on this podcast. We've done a lot of AI, the AI boom. We've at the moment we've done a lot of AI talk and other tech as well, but I don't feel like we've covered this as much. So I'm excited to dive into that, and I feel like you're the man to guide us through that in this episode today. Absolutely. And when I was actually looking at your profile, I must say you have an impressive 18-year journey with British American Tobacco. You have a really impressive, 7 different positions, an 18-year journey. So I really do feel you are uniquely positioned to really dive into this topic. So I am interested and excited to dive into, that really strong journey that you've had there. But before we do dive in, I like to do a bit of an icebreaker. I always like to ask a bit of a funny question, just to get into the episode. So you must have heard of some funny and strange excuses throughout your life, but what's the funniest or strangest excuse you've heard for a transportation delay?
Okay, so I have a few, but I was trying to think for the funniest one. So we had a good one where we had a missed delivery. Obviously, then we chased the driver down. We asked him for some, an explanation what's happened, and the feedback that we got was he'd taken a stop to go to church on his way there, and the priest was late, and then it caused him to be late to his delivery point. So I'm not sure you root cause that as maybe divine intervention, but it was an unusual one, a difficult one to explain to the receiving site where they're expecting to get their goods, but an interesting one nonetheless.
Wow, that is interesting. That's a great answer. And I love how it's not it's the priest's fault. It's his fault for being late. It's not that.
The priest had been on time, he would have been on time, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a great one. I love that answer. That is fantastic. So now let's jump into the meat of this episode, and that very much is understanding BAT's journey with emerging technology. And I know that not just the tobacco industry, but all the industries out there and everyone that listens to this podcast is going to get a lot of value from understanding how you guys are navigating emerging technology. Because as we know, emerging technology, it can be super exciting, and I look at it like a bull in a china shop. You see all these shiny things, and they're all there, and they're all shouting at you, "Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me!" And you just want to take them all. But I think what we realize definitely as supply chain leaders, that you need to sit back and understand, is this actually going to bring value to my strategy and to the company? And that's what I want to dive in today, is how you navigate this and what those technologies you have identified are those ones that do take you forward in BAT. So first of all, I just want to get started at the start, and that's, what are some of the emerging technologies in transport that BAT is currently exploring?
Sure. Well, I think like most people, yeah, we've got a lot of our focus is now on our emissions. So there's certainly a big drive there where we need to start preparing ourselves for the future and quickly, right? So one of the things we're focusing on is our roadmap to achieve our targets. So we've committed, as many companies are as well, I'm sure, to the 2030. We want to reduce our scope 3 emissions by 50%. But it's a difficult journey to get there. So certainly in that space, there's going to be a lot of emerging technologies which we need to be in a position to capitalize on. So I think electrified trucks is certainly one, but not just that. I think we're going to have to really consider a range of options. And I'm sure there's a silver bullet to the problem. So we really need to think about what's the right fit for the right things in our network. And we have quite an expanse of different sorts of lanes we need to cover. Yeah, so we've got some very long lanes which probably don't fit with an electric truck in its current capability. We have some very short lanes which would be very practical. So it's really about trying to map out what's the right solution for the right fit for that type of demand. So that's certainly one. In terms of the other bits, really is a lot on digital technologies. I think you mentioned AI. Yeah, that's certainly something which is in everybody's mind. But I think you first of all need to be trying to answer the right questions, right? So our focus a lot is on resilience at the moment. Yeah, we want to say that we have resilience in our supply chain and in our transport network, be it on service, but be it on cost, be it on sustainability. We need to make sure that we're fit for purpose today and fit for purpose in the future. So a lot of the technologies and emerging technologies around digital capabilities are around how do we get the right sensing? Where's the market going? Where's the industry going? How do we make sure that we have the right insights around that to prepare ourselves for what we need to deliver?
So it seems like you've got quite a few you're exploring, and identifying that value is very key, as you mentioned. And I just want to dive into, so I know initially, before I do dive into that electrified trucks that you did mention, is why are you not mentioning, and this may be simple to you, but I do want to bring this out to the viewers as well, is why are you not mentioning autonomous vehicles and even as far as like drones in your strategy?
I think with these capabilities that we never say never, right? And I don't think that they're not within our thinking, but there's certain challenges to us which maybe limit our capability in the short term, right? So one thing is that our products require age verification, right? So to deliver something to a consumer, you need to make sure that we've delivered that in a compliant way. And you need to make sure that having a person do that gives you the opportunity to make sure that you've checked those things, right? So that's certainly one of the elements. And I'm sure over time the technologies will advance and there'll be all sorts of face recognition and they'll expand. But that's one of the limitations. I think the other thing is that our industry isn't, let's say, our traditional industry is not very e-commerce heavy. It tends to be more retail outlets where we do our trade. Now, as part of our strategy, we're diversifying massively, right? So we're moving away from traditional combustibles. We're bringing a multi-category network and marketing offers to the consumers, and that opens up different opportunities for us. Where, in the long run, there may be, let's say, some advantages that we can take from those types of technologies, but it's a progression. We're aiming to build and be strong and be a big player in this area, and we'll see potentially then more opportunities to get more value from those types of technologies.
Well, that makes sense. That's good. It's nice to know that you're not completely dismissing it, but again, it's coming back to, you've identified that there's not a huge value in at this moment in time with that technology is. And to be honest, when I asked that question, when I was thinking, I can't really imagine drones flying around with packs of cigarettes going round. It'd be an interesting world to living in. Yes, the age verification, what you mentioned, how on earth would that happen? So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one.
Yes.
And how do you envision, you mentioned electrified trucks, AI, and a couple of other things. How do you envision these impacting the future of transportation within BAT's supply chain?
Well, I think electrified trucks, everybody will be a customer of, right? So I think we face the same challenges as everybody else, right? So you've got a high investment cost in the short term, and you have range limitations, right? So it's not something which necessarily is an easy sell sometimes to the organisation to say, no, we need to invest into these things. But what we want to build on, as I said, is this roadmap, right? So we say that we've committed to an ambition. We need to get there, and this is how we're going to get there. So this is the way that we're approaching it. We're in a discovery phase, I would say, in terms of electrified trucks. We've done a few case studies. We've mapped out some parts in our network where we think they would bring some advantages. We've had some, let's say, some capabilities in the past where we've used them around sort of shunting operations and things like that, which are very capable kind of solution for those types of requirements, but they're not going to make a significant difference to our overall emissions generation unless we come with a proper strategy. So there's lots of things we're exploring. I think there's also things like battery swaps, which I think is an interesting kind of emerging technology, which really could then, it seems to be a good option to increase the range, right? So if you can lift out the batteries and have a fully charged set and then keep going, then that's obviously going to bring an advantage to those vehicles. So I think certainly we are going to pursue that, and that will be, as I say, we're very interested in the future of that mode. And the other part of the question, Scott, just remind me, was on the digital technologies, right?
Yeah, it's trying. Yeah, and any other emerging technologies you have your eyes on, how do you see them impacting the future of transportation for BAT's supply chain? Yeah.
So I think in terms of digital capabilities, AI. So for us, it's about bringing transport into, let's say, the wider planning of BAT as an important and kind of fully transparent part of the network, let's say, right? So when we're planning our supply, and a lot of our supply comes from China, so a lot of it's got long lead times. So we need to make sure that we're giving really good quality insights to our planning guys when they're planning their inventories, when they're planning what they need to supply. I think we've had maybe a bit of a disconnect at times where we've got good information, we've got good data, and maybe we've not asked the right questions, right? So certainly a part of the plan for us is to really create what we call an ultimate control tower, right? So running, let's say, from a demand signal to a customer receiving their final products, a seamless and synchronized demand plan. And where we see some good opportunities now coming from emerging technologies. A lot of them, I think, have been around for a while in terms of tracking systems and ETA predictions, but really trying to build on those capabilities and provide really sound insights to our planners on what they should expect and giving them a risk sense of when they need to react. So this is where we're focusing, and then the next part then is going to be around, like I mentioned, our resilience. Yeah, so we see real opportunities to drive value. I think that a lot of the market insights which are available are getting better, getting more accurate. They're giving us predictive information, which enables us to set up our network, right? So to make sure that we're not reacting to something that happens when we're in the problem, but actually preparing for it in advance and being in a resilient way able to cope with the demands and the changes, and being that we're kind of expanding our business and diversifying into new markets. It's really important for us that we're able to judge those things and to be able to react to them. So they're new to us, they're new to the consumers, they're new to the markets themselves. So there's a lot of volatility, a lot of change there, and being able to react with good insights gives us a competitive advantage.
That's really great to hear. also focusing on that competitive advantage, what I'm hearing here, that sustainability, you've been very conscious of sustainability when making these decisions, conscious of the risk, being able to identify and make risk easier and more identifiable in your transportation as well, which is, of course, key elements we need to look out for to improve our supply chains. And I'm just wondering, do you see any challenges? We've definitely spoken about the opportunities, and please do share more if you feel you haven't touched on them yet. But what challenge do you see when adopting these new emerging technologies that you've mentioned?
Okay. So I think one of the challenges is it's about trust a lot of the time as well, right? So I think the technologies are there and they're capable, and we need to adapt ourselves, right? So we need to be able to build trust that we're providing the right information for people to make the judgments on. So that can be one challenge. It's a bit of more of a change management challenge, to be honest, and I think it's applicable to any time that you bring a new technology in. It takes time to kind of to build that trust. And then if we really want to get to the point where we start to push the boundaries a little bit, and we start to really introduce some of the AI capabilities and really take a step back and allow our systems to drive the output for us. I think that's been an area where we've struggled a little bit before, where we kind of end up with let's say us policing a lot and kind of sort of taking parts of it and not really being able to really fully kind of unleash the capability. So I think that's going to be also a bit of a challenge, where we don't get that sort of immediate impact that we expect, because we're a little bit cautious sometimes. I think on the more physical kind of technology, so again talking about the electrification of vehicles, clearly there's going to be changes to the networks that were required from that. So it's not just the trucks themselves, or the whole infrastructure around that is going to be a big challenge for everybody, right? So you're going to need the charging capabilities, you're going to need to be able to keep those networks running. But there's also a bit around people's expectations, right? So I think everybody's lived in the world of diesel trucks for the last 100 years or so, right? So we're kind of, everybody's familiar with that kind of technology, and everybody's got an expectation in terms of speed and cost and everything around that. The world needs to change, and we need to kind of influence our stakeholders to understand that this is where it's going to, this is how it's going to be, right? This is what's going to be the requirements going forward for a transport network, and it might look quite different in some cases to how it looks today. So I don't see major, let's say, technological challenges. I think a lot of it is more on people adopting to those changes and let's say making the most of what's available.
I really like your answer there. It's interesting because I feel like people can be on either side of that. Is it a human challenge or is it a technology challenge? So I like that. It seems like you're embracing that technology. Is getting there, it's proving itself. It's more of, oh, this is very different. This we have to move a lot of pieces here, and what the roles were a minute ago, they're not the same. There are now new roles. There are some roles that maybe don't even exist anymore, and that can be scary, and I completely understand this. So it's interesting that you identified that in BAT as it's more of a human thing that we need to have come.
It's about the skills that you require are different. So that's another part of the learning, and we focus quite a lot on building our digital technologies and capabilities within our organisation to get ourselves fit for this new requirement, right? So we're investing a lot in learning to make ourselves capable to take advantage of these opportunities.
And I want to get some idea. I know you've mentioned a little bit already on some current sort of POVs you've done, but is there any behind the scenes you can give us into any initiatives or pilots or projects you've run already with some of this technology?
Well, one area we're looking at very closely is on digital twin. So our because of the changes which we're going through, our network's becoming very dynamic, and we need to be able to judge quickly what's the cost or what's the benefit of those changes, and how do we make sure that we build efficiently a network which is capable to continue to deliver the right value. So that's certainly an area where we see a lot of potential for us to be able to be agile in our decision making. So as demand moves to different parts of the continent, as different commodities and categories are deployed, we see big shifts, and with those come some challenges, but also quite a lot of opportunities in the way that we can be more efficient. But what's often the challenge, I'm sure lots of people have been through kind of heavy network review studies. They take a lot of time to get an answer, and sometimes by the time you finish the study, the network's changed again. So you need to be more agile in this space, and that's an area we see some real potential for us, particularly with the nature of the transition that we're going through.
That word agility comes back. It's agility. It's so important, though, isn't it? It's just interesting how it does continuously come up in these conversations that I have, and just being able to, the people who can be agile and implement it in, a safe way into the company are the ones that get that competitive edge. So it's interesting that you bring this up again in this conversation. And I've definitely got some questioning to dive into that, as I'd love to know how BAT is doing that to, stay agile. But before we do dive into that section, I want to just do a quick insight into how you're using tech to overcome regulatory compliance and trade challenges. I think this is also interesting. We're focusing a lot of our attention. Both of us go to a lot of events, and there's a lot of attention around, technology for sustainability and visibility, and understanding the condition and location metrics of all our shipments and assets. But I haven't seen as much around how people are leveraging technology for compliance and trade challenges. So I want to dive into this for a moment. So just before I do, what are some key considerations for BAT in maintaining compliance with transportation regulations while operating, of course, in many regions?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's kind of quite a variety of things that exist in this space, right? So I think in terms of, you mentioned in terms of ESG compliance, and in terms of certainly there's a lot coming with EU regulations on mobility packages, and these things have an impact, right? So we see that we're not, let's say, required to plan around it as much as our carrier base would be, but we see the impacts of it, and we're aware, and we need to adjust for that. I think one of the other big changes for us as an organization is around so I keep mentioning our multi-category strategy. It opens up different areas to the network which we've never really kind of had such a need to be so focused on before, and a lot of that on dangerous goods is a new one for us. So a lot of our new categories are containing, lithium-ion batteries and liquid nicotine and things which require us to really comply with a completely different set of standards that we've had to be kind of so exposed to before. So that's driving a lot of challenge for us. I think probably not an area really where there's a lot of technology advances as such, but there's a lot of kind of capabilities that we need to build within our internal organization to navigate that. So that's certainly a big one. The other things I think are really more on market intelligence and sensing. So what's coming up? How do we learn quickly what the risks are? How do we then build a map, build a plan to ensure that we're compliant to those regulations, and that we can still operate as efficiently as we can. So I think they're probably where we see probably more of a technology kind of playing a role. It's on insights and information that gives us the opportunity to plan better.
That's I appreciate this answer, because you dived into a lot there, and there's a lot of considerations, of course, BAT needs to consider, and you mentioned about now the multiple categories that you're involved with, that bringing a different complexity altogether, which I'm sure you're alluding to, all the e-cigarettes, the increase in demand of, e-cigarettes is huge. And I know you also mentioned, you've not noticed as much technology that has come into support here, but is there any that you've maybe got your eyes on, or maybe been using in the last couple of years that you've managed to leverage to navigate these regulatory challenges and trade complexities?
Not that I've seen a lot of, if I'm honest, Scott. Yeah, it's not something which is it seems more of a very traditional part of the compliance space, I would say. A lot of books rather than a lot of sophisticated technology on that space. I think, I guess the area where we're kind of emerging from our side is on the e-commerce space, right? So we've never traditionally played in that place, as I say, with our traditional business, but we are now with our new category. So we are seeing some through that. It's a very dynamic kind of part of the network, right? When we talk about e-commerce, it's emerging. It's probably the fastest moving part of a transport network in terms of the developments that come in that space, right? So we're learning through that, and we're seeing opportunities that come through that. Our approach is we tend to use more partners to support us with our e-commerce kind of networks, but there's good advantages to that where they can bring their capabilities, and they bring kind of cross kind of customer enhancements which we're able to utilize as well. So I say it's an emerging technology for us in a way where we're getting new to it, and we're able to see some good advantages there, and you get to learn a lot more about your customers through those kind of networks and capabilities as well, which is really important when you're entering into a new category and entering into new products into the market. The more customer insight we can get helps us a lot to understand how we need to move forward as well.
It seems like this, you mentioned about the e-commerce piece in BAT has made quite a interesting move in the strategy, and it seems to be bringing a lot of new knowledge and a lot of new positive drive. So that's really exciting to hear. And I look forward to hearing, the technologies that come off this as well. And as a marketer, absolutely, that quick understanding of the intelligence from the consumer through e-commerce is fantastic as well. So this sounds very exciting, and something I'm sure we'll see more in the future of the learnings from the technology you guys use. Moving on, I want to shift the gears a little bit and just dive into one specific technology that you've used for quite some time now, and that's Roambee. Us guys, I would love to know what part does Roambee play in your emerging technology strategy?
Yeah, okay. Oh, good. Yeah, happy to share. So yeah, we've been using Roambee, the mobile tracking devices, for a couple of years now, and they've really kind of helped us to kind of, so they give us an element of, again, agility and flexibility in the way that we track our cargo. So we've been using them on a lot of our, let's say, sea freight moves that we've been sending out of Europe into the Middle East and other markets, and they give us the visibility on, let's say, the GPS tracking, the temperature, humidity controls, also for some of the security aspects which are very important to us. So not just the GPS, but also things like the light and motion sensing tells us if the thing's been opened, right? So it's really important we get an immediate alert. So we've been able to get some good value from the devices. But what's really been helpful from those experiences is to start to open up opportunities for us to see, well, where else in our network can we unlock value from using these devices? And we're seeing some good opportunities within our road space as well, where we're able to get a lot of good features that track our cargo very well and give us good quality insights that help us to maybe move away somewhat from more of our traditional methods of doing that, which is going to unlock quite a lot of value for us if we're able to achieve it. So that's been our experience so far. I think that there's some good opportunities out there which we're really trying to push forward during the course of 24.
That's great to hear. To get that depth of understanding, what part Roambee plays, and what is it those, I know you did touch on, but what are those challenges you're coming with today, or how do you foresee Roambee in the future evolving as part of your emerging technology strategy?
Yeah, sure. So certainly we get a lot of great information, right, from the devices. So that provides us with a lot of useful insights, which, yeah, we can. So part of our strategy in a way, right, is we want to get to a point where we have almost a huge data lake, which is we can pull out from there and come back to this, asking the right questions, right, and asking the right questions for which we can draw an immediate answer from the data. So having this capability with the Roambee devices, it plays into that space as well. So it gives us good information and opportunities to ask those questions. I think in terms of the immediate opportunity for us, it's giving us flexibility, right? So flexibility our cargo is high value, it's fast moving. It's something which we want to be able to make sure we've got good quality visibility and control of whilst it's in transit. So to be able to do that in a really kind of quite simple way, to be honest, with the devices, they're really easy to manage, and so it's very sort of simple for to give to the guys in the warehouses that to operate the devices, to switch them on, connect them. And then from there we get the information, and it gives us all the answers that we need. So it's been really helpful in that regard. And I say it really does open up some opportunities for us to start to ask some questions about, why do we do things the way we do today? And through the use of the devices, can we deliver the same output in a different way? And we see some opportunities there, which we really want to go for now.
That's fantastic, yeah, and I look forward to seeing the developments and the evolution of this as well. I now want to really get into the strategy piece. So this is where we've dived into the emerging technology that BAT is looking into. We've dived into the areas of how we're still looking, I guess, for technology and overcoming regulatory compliance trade challenges. And then we touched on, Roambee. But now I want to understand the strategy and how you're, what we mentioned at the start about the competitive edge, and agility is going to come back here. So as I mentioned, new innovations can be very exciting and attractive. The AI boom right now, AI, I give in to ChatGPT. It's a very useful tool. It's a very useful tool. But how does BAT cut through that excitement and identify the value you need from new innovation? And I'd love to know if you have any strategies you guys have always done, or maybe some new initiatives you do to ensure this.
Yeah, I think for BAT, a lot of the kind of developments we've done over the last 10, 15 years have been around, let's say, building standards. Yeah, so going down to really basic things like one SAP system across the group, right? So it builds you a platform for which you can build, right? So we've done a lot of developments in that space, and a lot of our capabilities are group standard. Well, one area that we've not yet kind of cracked is transport. So transport planning and execution in BAT, there's still a variety of ways that we do it. Now we have a plan to align there, and we've got a suite of capabilities which we're working with in terms of transport management capabilities, transport tracking capabilities, and load building capabilities, where we've defined a suite of technology capabilities which we want to deploy, right? And getting everybody to that level playing field is the first step, right? So then we've got a synchronized approach. Everybody's using the same tools. We've got a good base which we can now start to build upon. So that's the first step. The second part of our strategy is around how we organize ourselves. So we have a center of excellence, which we run from, which I'm actually part of, which is where we control our transport, our logistics, our last mile, our ESG, and our procurement plans. Yeah, so we govern that at kind of a global level, and we apply an agile approach to test, to learn, to create capabilities, which we then deploy group wide. So this will be our vehicle and our strategy for getting us there. So one, we get everybody to the same standard, and then two, we build on that standard using the structure around it that we have in terms of our centers of excellence. Now, where we'll look, certainly, so I've shared a few examples there in terms of what we do, but we'll be thinking about how do we drive the most efficient kind of transport operations. That's going to be obviously very important to us. How do we unlock value? But also, how do we, again, come to a future fit state? So being an organization in transition, we need to be really looking at how are these emerging technologies not right for maybe our traditional business, but where are they the right technologies for our future business? And that's where our strategy will focus. How do we make sure that our future organization, our future business is equipped with the best solutions and the best capabilities for us to be winners in those categories?
I really like that last point you mentioned there. And that's very much leading into that competitive edge, and underneath that, it's everyone alignment. That alignment of everyone understanding what the quality standards. I love that you have a standards, have a standards policy through BAT, which you're a part of, and now you've identified what the standards and those key metrics of what you're looking for in technology. In those moments that you find that technology, this is the one, we have to adopt it. How is BAT staying agile enough to capitalize in that moment quickly, versus it being implemented a year later? How are you doing that to maintain the competitive edge?
Sure. Well, the one thing which one of our sort of our main kind of principles as a centre of excellence is you have to be prepared to fail as well, right? So often you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. Absolutely. Right? So we operate as a very an agile approach to the way that we test and the way that we deploy capabilities. So we run a quarterly planning cycle. We agree on what it is that we're going to deploy, and we go ahead and we try to achieve what we call a minimum viable product, right? So you can always get caught in a trap, I think, of trying to find the perfect solution, and the perfect can be an obstacle for the good. And sometimes you can already start to realize value in the short term through getting a good product there. So that's a lot of our focus, right? So we're not looking to continually develop a product until it's at a perfect state and deploy it. No, we get to what we call a viable product. We deploy that, we test it, we build on it over time, and it'll enhance and it'll enrich and it'll get better. And there'll also be cases where we trial it and we're not happy and we give it a go and we say no, we move on. It's not right for us. So we're using that centre of excellence, approach and that agile sort of mentality to drive that innovation mindset.
I appreciate you saying that, not that perfectionism, trying to get it to that last bolt, that it's the right color. Definitely, being in the technology space, there's always elements of it that, every customer, every industry is so bespoke and so unique to supply chain, and getting every bolt in place to cater to every spec is challenging. So you're definitely that's definitely the right way to approach that, on to see through the solution in the value that it's bringing to you in that day. And finally, just what's your last words of advice for companies navigating the excitement of emerging technologies?
Okay. So I think there's an element of being bold, right? So I think you have to be prepared to try, prepared to fail, and I think that a lot of the concerns are obviously in the investment cost. So I think having a mind of what's the minimum amount that I need to start to unlock value, you get to a point where you can almost start to pay for the investment early if you can achieve that value, right? So I think that would be the advice. I think it's to ask the right questions. What is the problem that you want to solve? Understand the capabilities that are there, and to what extent are they matching to the solution that you're looking to receive. And then once you make a decision on the technology that you want to trial, set that standard. What's the level that we need to get to? Do we get there? And what's the failure level that we're not prepared to accept before we step away? So, and then the organizing yourselves in that way, in that agile way, I think is really powerful way to make progress quickly in a number of things, rather than to sort of investing all your effort into really making one thing perfect.
I think that was a great end question. The answer that you brought there is, brings a lot of clarity, and I feel just in that moment where we're being that bull in that china shop, it brings them back to be grounded and identify those points that you mentioned there. So it's thank you for that answer. Before we do end though, I do like to do a bit of a fun segment called thumbs up or thumbs down. It's very simple. It's a yes or no, but you're just going to give a big thumbs up or a big thumbs down, so both our audio and visual listeners can hear and see. And I'm just going to hit you with 6 statements, and you just give me a big thumbs up or a big thumbs down. Okay. So electric vehicles are much more environmentally friendly than traditional vehicles.
But
virtual reality will revolutionize driver training and simulation in the transportation industry. Emerging technologies pose a threat to traditional shipping methods.
I don't think a threat, an opportunity.
An opportunity. So our first thumbs down there. Number 4, AI and machine learning will eventually eliminate the need for human oversight in transport management. The tricky one.
I don't think I'll ever replace. I think it will only enhance. So thumbs down, maybe in the middle-ish.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Number 5, blockchain technology will truly provide the transparency needed to trace every step of a product's journey in the supply chain. Thumbs up. And finally, a bit of a fun question: who is winning a foot race? Well, not a foot race. Who is winning a race across London? Usain Bolt, an autonomous, an electric truck, or a drone?
Where are they going?
Across
Usain Bolt will only go 100 meters, so I don't think he'll be able to run that speed for the whole way. I think, depending on the time of the day, it could be the drone. If it's knowing London traffic, it could easily not go very far on an electric truck. So we'll go for the drone.
No, I think that's a great answer, because yes, Usain's got to contend with all the fast-paced moving people around London, who I must say, being in London
as well.
Yeah, people are they've got a mission, let's say that. They've all got their mission and they're heading that way, and you cannot be in front of them. So I think Usain Bolt might get pushed off to the side a couple times. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing what BAT and yourself do in the future.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If we just throw a bit of a hand up there, a bit of a wave to the audience, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Scott Mears, and I'm one of the hosts of the Supply Chain Tech podcast with Roambee.
On this podcast, we talk to supply chain heroes from around the world about everything, ranging from the disruptions related to supply chains, their personal experiences with tracking technologies, strategies to build resilience, and much, much more. We already have some recommended videos for you to the side of me, and if any of this sounds interesting to you, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another Roambee video. I'll see you next time.